Welcome to Let's Talk Health. I'm Dr. Dan Pavlik Jr. This is a show based on a lot of people that are affiliated with the healthcare industry from the alternative world into the traditional medical world. I want to dive right in. We have a really interesting guest on the show today by the name of Jevan Damadian. And if you aren't familiar with the name Damadian, that is the family that helped create the technology of the MRI imaging that we have today. And he's going to take us through some of the history of his father and how they have played such an integral part in healthcare today. So let me go ahead and introduce Jevan Damadian, who works for Phonar and Stand Up MRI companies. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you being on. I know you're a busy man and you probably have a lot going on, but we appreciate what you're going to tell us today about your family.
Well, thank you for having me on, and I really would like to make sure that I keep doing my best to tell this story until it gets told properly. But I've been in this business since I was a kid. I don't know, very young when I first heard the words nuclear magnetic resonance mentioned. I ended up working in the field as a electronics technologist for a lot of years, and then I got an electrical engineering degree, and then I worked my way up through his company for another bunch of years, and then I was vice president of R&D for about 5 years, and then I moved into operations for another 10 years. And then after that, I went and ran MRI centers because that was a good way to for the company to have. Oddly enough, that's a good source of cash flow when you're in this business, and capital equipment. Trying to sell MRI scanners is very expensive because they're not cheap.
Yeah, so you were there from the beginning, and as a kid, you were watching some of this technology develop, and I can't even imagine what that was like. I mean, your father was a doctor, and he what was his specialty? What did he specialize in as a physician, as a doctor?
So he was a medical doctor. He actually graduated and went to college when he was 15. He was a smart guy, and so he started college when he was 15, and he was an MD by the time he was 21, and he didn't want to just be a doctor. He decided that he wanted to be a research doctor, so he went directly into research. So he never had he never saw patients like that or anything like that. He went directly into research.
Okay.
Early on. And he started to want to research a cure for cancer. That's why he was doing what he did right out of the gate when he was in his 20s. And so when I was about, in 1969, that's when he first had his initial discovery. And he, at that point, he discovered this little machine. It was called a nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometer, which is the predecessor for the magnetic resonance imager. It was the same technology, but just in something about the size of something that would fit on a coffee table.
Yeah, you have a picture of that too. You just have to.
I can, let's see if I can. So, do you see that? Yeah. So it was this big little thing. It was about the size of I have it like a that's just for a coffee cup, just to give you the idea of what the size of this thing was. And it was a tiny little test tube. And you could put things in this test tube and it would tell you the chemistry of whatever was in there. And chemists had been using it since they won a Nobel Prize for this in 1952, just to look at, chemical solutions and see what the chemistry was of the substance they put in this tiny little tube. He came along in 1969 and he said, let's use human tissue. Let's use organic tissue instead. And let's put cancerous tissue in and then put normal tissue of the same organ, happened to be a liver, of a mouse, and he put them in and he compared them, and they were significantly different. And from that, he said, he came home and he told my mom, he said, honey, I'm going to build a machine that does this, but it's going to be the size of this. It's going to be a room-sized machine, and I'm going to jump inside it, and I'm going to look for cancer. And so that's what happened. And so
real quick to interrupt you, when he comes up with that idea, right? I'm going to build one the size of this room. Like, when he presented that to people, were they all on board, or did he get laughed at because of that? Like, how did that work? How did that go about?
So, no, at first everybody thought he was nuts. Here, there's another slide here. I'll show you. I'm trying to throw this stuff together. I've been working on this for a little while, but
yeah, no worries.
Hold on. Yeah. So here. Yeah. So. So
everybody thought he was a little nuts, and then he comes up with some of this stuff.
There's a child's book about it, and that's him telling somebody, all his physicist friends, and they're all laughing at him, and they did for a while. Not just his friends, but all of the establishment intelligentsia all thought that he was nuts for quite a while.
All right. So he started working on it, and how many, how long does this take? Does this technology take to start to try to develop? I mean, what does he have to go through to do this stuff?
So what I'm showing here now, this is his original suggestion in September 17th, 1969, where he says, I'll make every effort myself through collaborators to establish that all tumors can be recognized by their potassium relaxation times or H2O proton spectra. So this is his initial suggestion in publication to the world, and that's in 1969. And I was about 3 years old when this happened. So, from my perspective, that's the first time I'm learning, run, spot, run, and CAT is cat. And he comes home with magnetic resonance. Those are grown-up words. So I kind of remember them somewhere around then.
Wow.
But so, that's roughly when it started happening. And then from that point, he started really looking into it. And then he publishes a paper in 1971 where it gets into the Journal of Science. And so that's the first time in history or ever that anybody talks about using nuclear magnetic resonance to scan a human being. And so, yeah, that's when that happened. I don't know where that slide is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We'll take your word for it.
Anyway, one thing to point out was that he was an outsider to this whole thing because he was a medical doctor, and he walked into a field of chemistry where there was a bunch of PhDs in chemistry playing with this machine for this NMR machine for many years. And he was an outsider, and he came in and he said, "Hey, why don't we use this for medicine?" So that's kind of important to the whole story. You'll see
Absolutely, yeah.
later on. But
So then, obviously you can continue on kind of where I interrupted you before. You were going to talk about, how obviously creating a device to scan human tissue, but it was initially meant for cancer, correct? For finding cancers.
it really was, and now it has evolved into something that everybody uses for many other things, because it was able to see diseased tissue of all kinds. So there are a lot of other things that they're being used for. I mean, you can see herniations in the spinal cord. You can see all kinds of problems with cerebral spinal fluid in the brain, all lesions of any kind. So it evolved into a lot more than that. But the only reason that he did what he did, again, was because he wanted to use it for cancer, which you'll see later on when we get to what's going on now, that's really his dream is finally coming full circle, which is kind of cool.
So I see on this slide that you have here, it says at 4:45 a.m. on July 2nd, 1977, 7 years and 10 months after he began, Dr. Raymond Damadian takes his place in history when he performs the first human image ever made, and this was on his student, Larry Minkoff.
Yes, that's right. And then, so there's a funny story about this. He always told everybody, and by the way, when he got in there, this little picture on the left, when he got in, he was the first one to get the first human MRI scan, and that was about 3 months before they actually got an image. But he did that. I was about 9 and my brother was 10 and my sister was 3. And he told my mother, "Yeah, I'm going in there. And, I don't know if I'm going to, I don't know what it's going to do." This is a cardiologist. He's got they're checking to make sure he's not going to, something bad's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So he was the first one in the scanner also. He was the first one to have the first MRI scan ever done in, ever in the history. The only problem is they never got that image until they apparently his gut was a little too big for that coil. So they ended up, after a month or two, they convinced Larry, who was a little more slender.
Yeah.
He went in there and then they got this. That's the first human image right there.
Right there. 1977. That's amazing.
Yep, that's right. So from 1969 until 1977, that's when it all happened.
I take it he just had to get grants and things like that from different sources to develop all this stuff, right? I mean, 8 years is a long period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And during that time, after he said, "I'm going to do this," so he's this guy in the middle of, at the center of a point, and he could go in any direction, and infinite number of directions around him. He said, "I'm going in this direction," and everybody laughed at him for a while, and then slowly stopped laughing, and then they said, "Oh, that's where that guy's going, and it looks like a good idea, and so we're going to go there, and we're going to go also." So that's when people started to get a little serious, and they said, "Oh, okay, we better get on board with this because it seems like it could happen." So within those years, 7 or 8 years, he started to get other people that were competing with him, and they started to have a little bit of a race to get the first human image. And he actually did that too. And there was other people though that ended up later in the story of this story, doing some not so nice things to him. So.
Oh, bet. I could only imagine the competition, what was going on.
Right.
So
yeah.
then,
Well, because he was an outsider, these people kind of had some sway.
so then where does it go from there, like into the early 80s, correct? Where they finally started getting these machines, into hospitals? Is that correct?
Yeah. So after he made the first human scan, within a year or two, he said, this isn't looking good. They're coming after me, and well, he had some problems with it, but he also had made the first patent. Somewhere, I think in the late 70s, he wrote the first human patent because he knew that he was having some people that were all of a sudden paying attention.
Yeah.
So he wrote the first human patent, also the first MRI patent ever. After that, he said, I'm going to leave academia and I'm going to go start a company, and I'm going to make these MRI scanners and deliver them to the world, and make some of the first MRI scans in the world. And he did. He sold about. He left and he started a company called Phonar, which is the original MRI company. We were the first company ever to show an MRI scanner anywhere in the world. Mainly at actually a precursor, not the RSNA. It was another show that we went to, but it ended up at the RSNA, which is the Radiological Society in North America.
Okay.
You know the RSNA?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
So we were the first ones on the floor to ever show an MRI, and to deliver any MRIs anywhere in the world. And we ended up delivering probably the first 300 MRI scanners on the planet.
Wow. So what then was, as you guys were starting to develop this technology, was it hospital based only, or were you guys in standalone facilities like you are now?
Both. At first, the hospitals were very interested. I mean, we were definitely in hospitals back then with the original scanners, for sure.
And how do you come up with a cost of what a scan would cost at that time? What which is the other side of this stuff? Like, how do you even determine that?
It seems to me that it's always been around the a similar cost, right around. It was always right around $1 million.
No, I'm saying a cost for obviously, so that's a cost for a scanner, but a cost for for a patient to get scanned. Like, there's got to be some white tape to go through there to determine, okay, do we charge cash? Can we bill insurance? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, originally it was a little more expensive, but people were able to, see things that they couldn't see before. So they were, willing to spend the money. But at first it was not, covered by insurance. It went through the whole process.
Yeah, they have to do enough
research.
Yeah.
Similar to what's going on with the AI today, with the screening today. But as they saw, it was more accurate than the CAT scans and X-rays. I mean, originally we had a lot of issues that we had to compete with CAT scans and X-rays because we were more accurate, but we're also safer because
radiation.
MRI, a magnet, and it's a transmitter and a receiver. Receivers are completely passive. The transmitter, depending on what kind of power you're putting out, can be an issue. But the magnet, I mean, people wear magnets on their wrists because they heal them. I mean, I don't know. Magnets are not generally. There's no problem being in a magnetic field.
Yeah, they're not harmful to the body. Yes, like radiation from a CT scanner or a X-ray machine.
All right, ionizing radiation from X-rays in either X-ray form or CAT scans are actually, they can cause cancer as well as you're being as you're using it, it can be
Yeah.
causing damage.
So
this was completely safe and far more accurate.
Then, let's get into the conversation about the name for the technology from a standpoint of the imaging quality goes by Teslas. So obviously there's a lot of confusion. People don't realize that an MRI magnet has been using the name Tesla for a long time. But, oh, by the way, there's also a gentleman that has created a company who builds electric cars and trucks, and that he calls that Tesla. So the magnetic MRI, the magnetic resonance imaging, goes by Tesla. So the original Tesla is basically the power of the magnet and what the image quality is. Correct? It's to say it in easy terms, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a measurement. 1 Tesla is 10,000 Gauss. So Gauss is the original measurement of any magnet. But for some reason, and I don't even know, it's a good question. I'm going to dig that up and put that into my one of my slides here going forward. But basically, a 10,000 Gauss is 1 Tesla. So right now, the state of the art out there is 3 Tesla, which is 30,000 Gauss, which is a very strong magnet.
Now
it'll suck a screwdriver right out of your back pocket.
I bet.
They're very strong. You gotta be careful.
It originated, though. What was the original? Was it just like 0.1 Tesla?
The original magnet that he made, I think he was shooting for 1,000 Gauss, which would be
0.1, yeah.
0.1 Tesla.
Yep.
And I don't know if he actually made it to that field strength, but the image that he made, again, was the one that I showed you before.
Yeah.
It's it's that image, and that image actually took 4 hours, and that's another thing that it's been a situation, a puzzle to solve for since the beginning, is how to make that faster. And immediately it went from 4 hours to half an hour or an hour in the first maybe 10 years. But now getting forward, when we get to it, the AI is just making revolutionary breakthroughs.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that.
When you get to it, but yeah.
Well, okay. Kind of working our way there. Like, obviously, Tesla is the image strength and the image quality of the magnet. That's pretty much what we all kind of go by now. So you were saying a little while ago in our previous conversation that the AI is cleaning up some of the visibility or the scatter in this. Like, how is that working? How is that starting to play?
All right, so here
the noise reduction. So
yeah, noise reduction, and also like pattern recognition, which is like if you look at like satellites, like Google Maps, and now you can like see exactly, you can zoom down and see exactly. That's the pattern recognition of imaging. But the other thing besides pattern recognition, which is also it's getting smarter and smarter with the AI, but the other thing that really is making huge advances is the signal to noise ratio. So here is an image on the left with a low signal to noise ratio, and you can see the noise, right? Mm-hmm. And there's an image in there. There's signal in there, but it's, you can barely see it. But if you start to reduce the noise, the image starts to emerge. The signal starts to emerge. And the more you eliminate the noise, the more the signal pops through. And if it's a tiny signal, which is what it is in the case of an MRI signal, which are these tiny little signals from every little proton, or not every little proton, every 1,000th proton in the body or in anything in matter, you pick up that tiny little signal and you have to discern it from the noise. So here's an image with low signal to noise of a brain. And then if you can see the noise and see that some of the noise might have something of not so completely random, but there's patterns in it. You can eliminate that if you can see that there's any sort of cyclical pattern in it, and then you can get that. So what I put together here, let's see, this is random noise. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you or me or any normal person look at that and say, yeah, I don't see anything in that at all. It's just completely random. It's just noise. So then we take somebody, really smart and put him in front of that same TV, and he'll start to see patterns here and there that are cyclical. And if he sees something that is repeating, and say, all right, let's get rid of it. So up until now, that's basically what we've been able to do. But now we're starting to be able to get hundreds or thousands of really smart people to look at that same screen of noise and pick out all the patterns and reduce them and get rid of them. To get rid of the noise, you go back to noise is in the denominator. Okay, if you reduce noise, you get the SNR, the signal noise ratio, goes way up. If that goes way up, you do it without raising that Tesla number. Okay, you don't need a strong Tesla. The higher the Tesla, the more money it costs. That's very expensive to increase the Teslas. The smarter way to go is to reduce the noise.
So are you saying in the future they don't necessarily need to go to a 4 or a 5 Tesla? It's just a matter of
that's right.
Increasing the signal to noise ratio.
That's right. So instead of spending a bunch of money to raise the signal by increasing the magnetic field strength, you just reduce the noise. And AI is doing it in spades right now. So, and by the way, right now, maybe there's 100 here. There's going to be 1,000 or 1,000,000 Einsteins looking at it. I mean, it keeps learning. So
yeah,
that's kind of the cool thing about AI. And it's really, like, I always say this, AI is, there's a nefarious side to AI, maybe, like the, Terminator and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But in medicine, in MRI in particular, it's just revolutionizing the industry.
Well, and the positive thing about that is it'll keep the cost down, because if you keep trying to develop these higher tech magnets, it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be a cheaper magnet, not so high cost magnet, and it's going to be faster and faster to the point one day where hopefully it'll be as quick as taking a camera picture.
Yeah.
I mean, right now it takes half hour, 45 minutes. It could be as quick as a minute for the entire scan. But so that's obviously the ultimate goal, is to get it as fast as possible.
Now, and you'll I take it in being under your father's legacy of the family that created this technology. I mean, you continue to help work on that type of stuff, correct?
I'm doing my best. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's great. Well, in lieu of time, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to pop up there to show us from a historical standpoint, but
all right. So one more thing, or two more pictures. One, or three. One is this is what's happening now. This is screening. This is coming out now, which is something this is a dream of his from day one, and now it's kind of become a reality. You can do a full body screen in about 30 minutes, and you can pick up a cancer nodule the size of a pea, the size of your the tip of your pinky, and scoop it out before it can metastasize and basically spread throughout the rest of your body and kill you.
Yeah.
So this is real. This is happening, and it's because of AI, and because it's all kind of come full circle. So it's kind of cool.
That's amazing, and that's what he originally set out to do.
It really is, and that's the message I'd like to make sure everybody gets, is that that's why. It was not so that, we could help people see herniations instead of bulges or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of other things happening, and it's fine. That's good. There's a lot of other byproducts to it, but the original intent was to cure cancer, and it is here. It's real.
That's great.
And I want to do everything I can to help that along too, to eliminate cancer, because it's about 700,000 people still a year that are dying of cancer.
Yes.
So it's a big number.
It is.
And there's some other stuff with the MRI. The other thing that it's doing a lot for is brain disease, including Alzheimer's and others like ALS and all that. That's really helpful for that as well, especially the weight-bearing MRIs like the stand-up.
Well, very good.
And then I'll just end it. This is a little video. I don't know if Steve has this, but this is them building the first MRI at Downstate University in 1971. And they just kind of tore through the ceiling and put it in, even though they didn't have permission. That's him right there.
Okay.
He's the one with the sledgehammer. So he was a bit of a cowboy.
Well, you kind of have to be to do something like this, man. It's impressive. We're grateful to your.
All right. Well, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
And I'd like to meet you in person at some point. I haven't seen your face yet, but.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm right here in Orlando. Like I said, one of the original sites that Damadian MRI was in Orlando. There's still a stand-up MRI here, stand-up MRI of Orlando. Who's been.
Oh, well, that's stand-up MRI of Orlando. That's my buddy Carl.
That's Carl.
He's
Yeah, we had Carl on the show a while back, and
I hope do you know Carl?
I know Carl well. I know Carl very well.
Hello?
So him and I have been good friends for a long time. We go back probably 25 years. So, because my dad's always been in the practice affiliated with next door, the chiropractic practice. So, but Jevan, I can't thank you enough for taking your time out to tell us a little history on your family and tell us where this technology has gone and where it is and where it is potentially going, man. This is what this show is all about, educating people on what is going on in healthcare today. So I really appreciate you being on, my friend.
Thank you for letting me tell the story. I want to keep telling this until, as long as I'm here. I want to keep telling it till it gets told to my satisfaction.
Yeah. Well,
thank you.
Thank you, Jevan. We appreciate it. And as always, we are Let's Talk Health. I'm Dr. Dan Pavlik Jr. As Jevan Damadian tells the story of his father creating the MRI magnet and initially set out to investigate and try to cure cancer from a small machine to now what's going to potentially help in that fight of curing cancer, to the full body scan of the MRI. And we're grateful and we appreciate his time and what his family's dedicated to the healthcare industry. So thank you again, Jevan. We appreciate it.